people, they are still looking for some of them. So the possibility for one agency or another to be tagged with serving a warrant or interviewing a witness to try to find out all over the country with this investigation, the largest in DOJ history, is extreme. And by the way, if it's anything like this, the implications for us, for citizens of 20 special agents in charge being eliminated, all the things they do, public corruption for starters, but street crime, everything. So it's a body blow to everybody in the country. But I really want to say, even if the breadth were much smaller, as it seems to be in DOJ, a single agent being fired because he or she did their job as they were supposed to do, and in fact here under the direction of the Department of Justice, is just a complete stake in the heart of what the FBI and DOJ are supposed to be about. And it's not just those who get hurt. Yeah, as Ryan reported, and I've spoken to people already within the FBI. People are alarmed.
We are so close to recovering the Sentinel artifact.
So you have a whole workforce, even if it weren't half the FBI involved, that is completely sort of politicized. This is so short-sighted and so damaging for public justice in general.
Jonathan, these days and months are, of course, more than just a notation on the calendar. And I wonder what message it sends to Pentagon employees and beyond.
Yes, I still got it.
Chris, at some point I'm gonna be rather blunt, but I'm gonna answer your direct question. What it says to those employees is that the federal government, from the President of the United States on down.
I'm Adelie Postman-Ponte, and this is Ukraine, the latest. Today, as Ukrainian drone attack, yet another oil victim last month, and as Trump threatened to lead it the west border of the storm of Russian exports. He also called tank action, but I guess he misread it.
Well, whoever that was, he sounds like a real buddy.
Unimaginable hardships to finally reward you with victory. It's the worst purge that this world has seen since World War II.
Absolutely fascinating.
We are with you, not just today or tomorrow, but for 100 years.
This
place has been shunned by locals for years.
Nobody's gonna break us.
We're
strong.
Some say the blaze is blood.
It's Wednesday, the 29th of
Got my
January,
umbrella.
2 years and 334 days since the full-scale invasion began. I'm joined by Don Nichols, Associate Editor for Defense, and Hamish Dresden, former tank commander and chemical weapons expert.
Let's start inside Russia. And there was another Ukrainian night drone raid across Russian energy infrastructure last night. Drone strikes were reported by local officials across several Russian regions, including the Nizhny Novgorod area, that's about 300 kilometers from Moscow. Also Smolensk, that's the same distance west of Moscow, that abuts the border with Belarus. Tver Oblast, just to the north of that, was also hit, and Bryansk Oblast, that's down south on the border with Ukraine. Now, a source in Ukraine's military intelligence told the Kyiv Independent that the Lukoil oil depot in the city of Rostovo in Nizhny Novgorod, as I said, 200 km east of Moscow, but a better number is 800 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. That was targeted at around midnight local time by 4 drones, all of which seemed to have gotten through and hit the target, causing significant damage. However, Russian Governor Lev Keatin said air defense systems shot down multiple drones with no incident, but that fragments from the intercepted drones fell on the industrial site. So, I was 22 very dramatic images across a number of social media channels, including Telegram channels, that possibly show the site of that, the Lukoil oil depot in Gulf displays. The fragments from these drones that seem to fall out of the sky seem just as dangerous as the actual drones themselves, if we're not to believe Governor Keatin. Now then, in the Smolensk region, Governor Vasily Alkin said this morning that, in his words, a massive drone attack had hit civilian infrastructure. He also said one drone was intercepted while attempting to strike a nuclear energy facility. The local governor of EFYR also reported drones shot down, and Russia's MOD said that their air defence units brought down 26 drones in the Bryansk. Now, we've no way of verifying that. There is, as I say, imagery or social media showing the Lukoil oil depot supposedly on fire, not to verify any of the rest of it. But it's worth noting that there are reports that Russia suspended departures and arrivals of flights from Murmansk airport, Murmansk, 1,000 kilometers away from Ukraine, also airports in Kazan and St. Petersburg for the time drone attacks reported in the area, just yet again underlining the increased effectiveness of long-range drones. Then inside Ukraine, 2 people killed in the city of Mykolaiv by a Russian missile strike. That was part of an overnight strike, including 57 drones, of which 29 were shot down, 14 brought down by EW media, independent, focused on has fallen to advancing Russian forces. They are citing 5 Ukrainian, European military and government sources that independently spoke to through the outlets most of the time. Now, neither Ukrainian nor Russian militaries have confirmed that. The Moscow Times sources on the ground say that Ukrainian forces have been pushed right to the outskirts. That report is not backed up by today's update from the Deep State map, which is usually very reliable on these things. So confusion, as ever, about what's happening on the front line, but yeah, we should keep our focus on EFYR for the next 24 hours. Now, staying inside Ukraine, Nombre Intelligence, the global risk management firm, they're reporting today that Russian forces launched a drone attack on the port of Ismail, that's southwest of Odessa, right down on the border with Romania. It's on the river, the other side of which is Romania. Air raid sirens activated in the region were activated just before 2:30 a.m. local time in Ukraine. According to local sources, the port was targeted with multiple Shahed 136 drones, probably those 14 that got through. Nombre said they observed photographic evidence of a delta wing from one of the drones in the wreckage of the building in the area. No damage to Russian vessels were reported. However, buildings in the vicinity of the port were reportedly damaged. At the time of the incident, Nombre said there were 39 merchant vessels at the port operating in the vicinity. That's one of the big ports for the grain trade. Now, their advice is that vessels conducting Black Sea port calls are advised to conduct a comprehensive dynamic voyage threat assessments. The crew is advised to remain in the vessel's designated safe muster point during any drone attacks, and that muster point should be located above the waterline, they say, midships, and low down into the Now, elsewhere, a couple of other bits of defence news here. Australian volunteer soldier fighting for Ukraine, who was reported to have been executed by Russian forces after being taken prisoner, is thought to be alive, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong said today. So this chap called Oscar Jenkins went missing on December the 16th last year on a combat mission near the village of Mykolaiv in Luhansk. Of Ukraine's Ground Forces Command gave that information to the Ukrainian.
We continue to follow that breaking news out of Philadelphia this morning, where a plane carrying
Stand before a precipice. Forward! Through the door to nowhere!
Well, that tops the list of most traumatizing shit I've seen today. Why use butt spray, not lead with me? bullet on the head is right up there.
Seeing these two crashes back to back and in such a short period of time.
Well, it's very unusual, and we have the safest aviation system and national airspace system in the world. It's incredibly much safer than driving. Much safer than driving. And just to see these two, large events right next to each other is just starting.
I want to get back to the crash back here at home, GCA. I know we are in the very early stages of this investigation. Recovery efforts are still underway too. But from your understanding of what you have learned so far from an aviation standpoint, what may have gone wrong here?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions still to be answered. A lot of things the EFYR is going to look at. Certainly, they're going to look at the cockpit voice recorders of the data. They're going to look at what the helicopter was doing, the Army helicopter, the communications within the cockpit of the helicopter, and the communications outside with air traffic control. There's an FAA order that says how air traffic control communications are supposed to go, the phrases they're supposed to use, the things that they're supposed to say, and when they say them. And so there's going to be some look at how the air traffic controller was communicating with the helicopter and other planes in the area to make sure that they met the standards.
We know that these investigations can take quite some time. That these two black boxes you mentioned on the American Airlines flight, they have been recovered. We also know that the black box on that helicopter.
I was even checking through there this morning. Everybody seems to be caving to drop except to Canada. We've now said, hey, you impose those tariffs and we're going to respond forcefully.
Yeah, if they didn't learn a lesson on the Colombia lesson, then they ought to pay attention. Like, what is Donald Trump fighting for? He's fighting for America. He's fighting for the United States. He's fighting for equality, essentially. Don't run roughshod over the United States. Don't split us in two. Treat everybody the same, and you will be just fine in the United States. But if you're going to take advantage of people, if you're going to suppress the conservatives and Republicans, if you're going to go after people, guess what? Life's going to be difficult for you. Treat us fairly, treat us equitably, and you'll be just fine.
It's all negotiation, really, isn't it?
Oh, well, look, I mean, he carries the biggest stick.
Yeah.
He does know how to negotiate, but he's right, and he has the support and the mandate of the American people. That's the most important thing. Nobody would know, you're right, would be afraid of Kamala Harris. Donald Trump, yeah, he's probably going to go to the mat and make your life very difficult.
Let's see, we'll find out today. Because the Canadians have said, we're going to do this. You impose this guys, we're going to do this. No, next is now the Trump's court. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right. Saturday, those tariffs are coming. What are you trying to protect fentanyl in illegal immigration? That seems like something we should be doing in the United States of America.
Next one, thanks for you. We have some federal employees claiming that they are bribed by fear and hence have a lot of executive order. This is an NBC report, by the way. Is it productive to have public workers in fear and hiding?
Well, he's given them the option to leave. He's going to give them an 8-month severance if they don't want to come to work. Is it too much to say you work for the federal government, you need to come into work and actually do, what, we have 6% of these buildings that are occupied? It's very reasonable. We're paying them these salaries. They need to come to work, and if it's too much for us, then they can quit and go find another job.
But the spoil of those programs, that's
it's right simple. It's common sense.
a couple of workers who refuse to go to the office are not going to be confident. I think that's a good thing. He's going to
Oh, absolutely. And look, you don't like it, you quit.
something with a good government job.
Oh, it's a rich deal.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump is still planning to issue tariffs on Canada and Mexico tomorrow. In fact, the president himself said this just last night in the White House. President Trump issuing a February 1st deadline for the 25% tariffs on imports if both countries do not halt the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl. Joining us right now with the latest is Peter Navarro. He is President Trump's senior trade and manufacturing advisor. He's helping craft the president's tariff options on this front. And Peter, it seems like we've come an awfully long way just over a week and a half since we last talked. Where do things stand right now? Do you expect to see these full 25% tariffs enacted starting tomorrow?
I have no breaking news for you on that, Becky. Last time we talked about the importance of talking about why tariffs, so I can't talk a little bit about why. I do have a little breaking news, though. That data you had in the last segment, I think Jim Cramer is going to jump out of that and squash the street. Just saying.
Surprise, Doc.
As for the real world, Andrew kind of teased I was back in the real world. Apropos of the discussion we're having, I want to talk a little bit about one of the big reasons you think about tariffs, and that's the fentanyl. We got the Super Bowl coming up, and eerily, the amount of people that fit these Super Bowls almost exactly to the number of people dying every year here in America from fentanyl. And that comes from China and Mexico. So these are why we have these kind of discussions, and we're facing a set of national emergencies. One, of course, is the people dying. With respect to illegal immigration, 6 degrees of separation. I suspect just about every American knows somebody who's had somebody robbed, raped, killed by an illegal alien. So we've got that going. And the numbers, Becky, of illegal aliens that came through the Biden administration are staggering. Think about this. Connecticut, just up the road from you, right? About population about 3 million. That's about how many people every year during Biden. Same as the population Arkansas or Nevada or Mississippi or Utah.
Peter, this is what we talked about a week and a half ago, and at that point we were talking about how this is a negotiation. But we're here. The deadline's tomorrow. Has there been progress made on any of those cases? And by the way, you just mentioned fentanyl is really a problem from China and secondarily Mexico. Why's Canada wrapped in?
Canada is a big part of the immigration problem. They have very, very lax visa programs, which I was surprised to learn this. But way back when I used to fly in Canada to this feature, it was like, it was not pleasant, but a lot of the terrorists that have come in have come from Canada. I mean, we have the fentanyl crisis, we have the border crisis. We also have something that concerns the president deeply, which is the $1 trillion trade deficit that we have every single year. That's as Warren Buffett said, that's property and the wealth of America going offshore. And Canada, Mexico, and China actually account for almost 50% of that. So the boss wants to do something about that. So we have the fentanyl drug crisis, we got the border invasion crisis, we've got the trade deficit issue, and this whole other thing coming at us like a freight train, and we didn't talk about it last week, but it's worth refreshing, is the tax hike that's going to happen, almost $500 billion a year tax hike, if Congress can't come to terms with a new tax bill. And President Trump has a great new tax cut, the largest in history, and tariffs can easily pay for that. President Trump wants to move from the world of income taxes and countless IRS agents to a world where tariffs, like in the age of McKinley, will pay for a lot of government that we need to pay for and lower our taxes, and that's through the external revenue service. So what's going on before us, and the market should be comforted by all of this, because taken as a whole, we're going to have lower inflation and faster growth, and we're going to have a more secure and prosperous America, which is good for the world, because
Peter,
go ahead.
I just want to talk through some of these points, because the president has a very broad agenda. He has a lot of things he wants to get accomplished. Some of those things actually come in conflict with each other from time to time, and I think a lot of people watch to try and figure out which is going to take precedence, how you find and put these policies together. Obviously, he wants to stop the fentanyl problem. Obviously, he's looking at illegal immigration very closely. But the market seems to be trading in some ways like some of this stuff may not happen tomorrow, those 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And let me just walk you through some of the Wall Street proclamations on this. You've got Barclays saying if the tariffs are put in against Canada, Mexico, and China, it's going to be a 2.8% drag on the S&P 500's profits. Citigroup is saying a narrow tariff scenario is likely to result in a 50 basis point compression on the S&P 500 gross margins. You've got other places that are looking at home builders potentially having lower housing starts down the road. He wants to get more housing. He wants to get more affordable housing. Automakers like Ford and Tesla are expected to take a big hit if these tariffs are imposed on Canada and Mexico, because those two countries account for about 1/5 of the value of U.S. vehicle consumption and production, according to Goldman Sachs. You've got all kinds of issues about inflation being concerned, and I can cite Barclays, Goldman, Capital Economics, all of these different places that are talking about inflation going up anywhere from 35 to 40 basis points to 0.9% issues. That's where I understand there's a lot of issues that the administration wants to do.
But let me say this. Now, every one of those organizations, groups, and studies said the same thing back in 2019. The sky was going to fall when we put them on China. The sky was going to fall when we put them on Cuba. And the sky didn't fall. In fact, the sky got really starting this morning again in America. We're going to have a golden age in America. So I don't believe in those studies. I've seen too many Wall Street studies designed to spin things around and make it go the way they want to go, not the way So let's see what happens. Boss up to say that. Let me talk about always the whys of the tariffs. And I think this is to understand. Last thing I'll say, Greg, this is really important. The presidential memorandum, day one,
House says President Donald Trump is moving forward. Mexico and businesses speaking out against that.
Max Armor. Squash whatever the hell just popped out of that corpse.
Sounds like they got my little gift. Looks like 10 pounds of death in a 5-pound bag.
Eat the kid.
Ohio Street, 15-minute drive from Canada. It's among the local business owners who are coming together to speak out against the tariffs set to go into effect Saturday.
20 to 25% of our carbon steel in Canada. Dollars. We also our largest customer here.
A 25% tariff here.
Did you know? By the way, Trump also said we'll be doing something very substantial on tariffs with the European Union. So we are seeing sharp reactions in the currency markets to a lot of these headlines, peso, Canadian dollar, as well as the euro taking a hit on the back. But what's your initial take here? We sort of knew this was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to happen in quite this way.
We didn't know it was going to
Here we are.
We didn't know Saturday. We heard March 1. I thought March 1 was the headline this morning for Canada and Mexico. After we started to digest that yesterday, China, we've had this number out there. 10% on some levels already been in the market and already kind of a relief. The concept of this being the reverse flow of illegal immigrants and illegal drugs is one way to get going on it. I mean, there's a lot of different rationale out there from the administration as to why these things are happening. Ultimately, it's really about a competitive balance. They believe anyone who's in deficit, we're in deficit too, should be had tariffs put on them. It's interesting to think about the currency markets because going into this, you can make an argument that the U.S. dollar was already strong and that there was a lot of pressure potentially on multinationals in this country because of the stronger dollar. We started to hear about that. This stage of the cycle, it doesn't really bother me as an investor for all of these companies, but the European Union charted that position at 25 years. This week, ECB, if anything, is rumored that maybe they could go a little bit more.
Harvard owes me a beer when this is over.
But we don't really know the impact of all of this, and it's just interesting to see how quickly that back into the market.
Yeah, so they said that the market is affected. One of the discussions number at 2.2%. This is after and the economy is kind of limping in the end of the year. I think expectations were higher than that in Q4. So one of the things we can be fairly certain on is these sorts of tariffs stay on some of these key industries. It is going to weaken economic demand here. It just will. And so at the end of the day, the president uses the stock market as a report card, but if the economy starts to move, that's a key is what you start to anticipate.
The dollar obviously is such an important thing. The sector, of course, of the American market has the biggest exposure.
Staples, the beginning of technology was the highest nonsense with the S&P. We've got Sunny struggling. I think a lot of it has to do now with the precision.
Are we starting to study negotiation tactics, or are we actually going to? And this is why the bond market has been pricing in inflation. I mean, is why markets are concerned about where inflation is going. So, regulation and how inflation, markets are kind of up and down here. The impact of tariffs, but you know, you think about the inputs into drugs that are manufactured here, but the inputs come from abroad. That's where you start thinking maybe we have not yet really fully digested the impact of tariffs and the ripple effects that can have across several different industries.
Well, and that's it. And we haven't really heard a whole lot about the impact for healthcare, but certainly for pharma specifically. And so that's part of where the market's uncertainty around really what's coming next, what kind of teeth will there be attached to this. The other side of what we were hearing before we heard about starting Saturday with Canada was that these months that there's going to be a lot of trading going on. That, you know, maybe the headlines will be busier than actually the reality of this. So I get back to markets, which today also digest the PCE number, which most people know is a big number for the Fed as well, which came in significantly higher against all relative than expected. So to the extent that inflation is something that we're still fighting, we had a Fed this week that pretty much kind of said as much. They argued that the change in the language is really the statement a little bit, but the real inflation is still an issue. And markets, especially I think that's actually the most insulating inflation.
Getting heard is good for the planet. Can't argue with science. Down here! I don't want to be corpse shit!
You've got 30 seconds to catch that ride.
Michigan.
Andre Norwell joined us now. Andre, what are people saying about this?
Jeff and Kayla, you've spoken to consumers on both sides of this issue. One thing they all agree on is the possibility of goods getting more expensive.
It's a busy day at Joseph's Beverage Center on the last day of dry January. Sam McCall is one of the customers getting his spirits.
Vodka, gin.
And he says he'd hate to see imported alcohol prices bubble up because of tariffs.
I don't know why you got to make all these changes. You know, it seems like the changes are making things higher.
Trump has threatened these tariffs to get more cooperation from countries to stop illegal immigration and smuggling of chemicals used for fentanyl, but also to bring it.
This site is considered cursed. Reports of paranormal phenomena go back centuries. If that is due to the presence of the Sentinel artifact, proceed with caution.
Well, I've got a magic amulet and a shitload of bullets.
AI spend very much in focus for investors on the field of big tech earnings. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg remains confident in the
in spending from reiterating Meta's outlook on the earnings call. Meanwhile, Microsoft's weaker-than-expected intelligence cloud forecast sparking investor concern. Seeing that reflected in share price here this morning, got Microsoft shares off nearly 5% here over now. Let's bring in Paul Meeks, Harvest Portfolio Management's Chief Investment Officer and Wall Street Beats partner. Paul, it's great to have you back here on Yahoo Finance. Let's start with the updated report and maybe the reaction that we're seeing play out from Meta's earnings last night. Certainly, we have Mark Zuckerberg once again doubling down on the spending plans that we first heard about last week in terms of AI and that roadmap ahead for Meta. Wall Street is buying in, are you?
I'm definitely buying it. Now, I've held Meta for years, so my cost basis is a fraction of where the stock trades today. But if you take a look at the marquee tech names, I put Meta right at the top of the class. I was on the quarterly webcast live yesterday, and I really like the vision that the company has laid out. I thought Zuckerberg was superior in risk, and I do believe, I don't think it's with too much hyperbole, that this will be a great year for the company, very well positioned in these times.
Does a great year for the company rely more on a pivotal year, as they were calling it, for Metaverse, or the year where Llama and open source become the most advanced and widely used AI models that they talked about on the call?
I think it's the latter. Now, I don't expect to see a lot of AI monetization from anybody, but I like the way that they're set up with their Llama open source model. I think that there is a good shot that this will become the global standard for such models. The other thing I'm excited about is, they plant seeds, and then hopefully we have some growth over time. And I think this year, the monetization of Instagram Reels could be a real driver.
When do those seeds need to sprout, Paul? What's the timeline that investors are going to be grading Meta up against?
Well, it's typically a couple of years. What Meta does is they develop, release a product, and once it gets to 1 billion users, which would be a huge effort for any company, but more realistic for Meta, then they swoop back in and try to monetize those users. And it looks like, for example, with Reels, that they'll get there pretty quickly. And I expect that they will get there over time with Llama and AI.
All right, Paul, so let's compare that to what we heard from Microsoft, because you can see it play out, even just in the stock reaction here this morning. Microsoft shares under pressure, off more.
Valentine's Day is coming up, and for me, there's only one place I trust.
The only things I've seen is, number one, it was an AI model that costs like a tenth of what OpenAI's models cost. Just as good. And then I heard that it was just trained on OpenAI's stuff, and it's not actually that impressive.
Oh no, they stole our content.
What is up, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of the Waveform Podcast. We're your hosts, I'm Marquez, I'm David, and that means that Andrew's not here. Andrew's out this week, Elle's also out, Adam's holding down the board, corner like usual. It's going to be a good time. Been a couple weeks ago, we have a lot to talk about. We got an exclusive look at Samsung's Project Wuhan headset. A lot of interesting thoughts there. We're going to touch on the new DeepSeek R1 model that's all the rage in the industry right now, but also talk about Pebble. It's sort of a nice thing. I think I can use that word. We'll talk Pebble for a bit, and also we're going to play another game of something or nothing at the end. Love it. So first of all,
I'm range trained to fire pretty much anything.
Like, here's headline. Nothing. The company.
About fucking time
did a
someone
video.
dealt me a winning hand.
That was almost the video was, so they basically emailed me a couple months ago, like, hey, we're going to make a video on, like, what it would take to make your dream phone. You know how you've had, like, a dream phone in the past where you just, like, set together a bunch of parts? Like, just give us one of those and we'll make a video of it. And I was like, alright. So I just threw together, some specs. Yeah, it'd be cool if you could combine these, send it off. And then 2 months later, they're like, hey, we made a video. Or I watched the video, and it's very interesting. Basically, it breaks down roughly what the costs are of a smartphone. Most interestingly, the bill of materials itself in different components of the phone that go into that building in. So I'm sure you've heard before that, like, yes, you buy a phone and it costs $800 or something. but that phone only cost $3 materials. And then everything where they could, here's all these other shots on the difference between bill of materials and final retail price, but I gave them some specs. This is what they came up with. So they want to make already, but other cities, I'm glad about this further with stuff that I think is interesting. Maybe you have reacted to this stuff. So I told them we rounded up to 6,000 milliamp hours, 65 watt fast charging, 15 watt wireless charging. They said $13 per battery. Your dream is 15 watt wireless charging? Well, I didn't specify, actually. I just gave them, I said fast charge. Oh, okay. My dream would be, give me 100 watts a month. Yeah, 100 watts a month, but $13 per battery. Okay. Which doesn't seem that terrible. Being on the small side, everything else basically being like welcome to the future. Display. $35.
Last thing we need around here is a fucking bug infestation.
Yeah, I mean this. I guess you lose the glass and sell it. Yeah. So it's $35. So the cameras, I just handed them like S24 Ultra roughly, but also not really. I would like a further tripod of the S24 Ultra has. The idea is front back and design front-facing camera. And $80 total for all of the cameras. Okay, $80. Let's see. You got a bunch of sensors. Yeah, a bunch of sensors, all the glass and optics, and whatever has OIS. It seems crazy that it's that much higher. It's really justice in that person. Yeah, and that's not bad. So they're not as expensive, but so fair. Samsung? Well, no, those are Samsung sensors. Samsung makes some of their own sensors. I forgot their Samsung message. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not tied to those particular sensors, but yeah, roughly $80. The storage. Give you a terabyte of fast storage and 16 gigs of RAM. $90. Oh, for that. What? Yeah. Really? Yeah. Oh, storage and the RAM. Storage and RAM. Okay. $90. It still seems like a lot. It does. And whenever you go to upgrade, I guess it makes sense whenever you go to upgrade a phone and you try to double the storage, then you see like real price increments. It's not like you have to pay $200 more in bill of materials to increase the storage, but it is a pretty significant cost in the phone. Yeah, so that's interesting to see. 1 terabyte on SSD is much cheaper than that. It is true, but it is fast. Yeah, it's a tiny little UFS 4.0 SSD. We'll go with it. And then a Snapdragon 8 Elite. So again, they said they couldn't reveal their exact supplier costs. Totally fair. Now, sure, Qualcomm doesn't let them, but they basically referenced that a typical high-end flagship chip will cost about $190. Wow, with their volume levels. So pretty pricey. I actually have some more thoughts in my S24 Ultra review on the cost of the Snapdragon 8 Elite. Get there. Okay. But yeah, $190 for the chip. And then some other small things, a motherboard, antenna, electronics, haptics, other small electronics miscellaneous, $15. Okay. Packaging, cable, stickers, box, $30. Wow. That's a lot more than I thought. Design materials, so if there's fancy stuff you want to do with the back glass or any decoration or maybe some special paint or something like that, $8. That would be why we see so many insane, weird designs on the back of them. Yeah, it's not that expensive. You do Dragon Ball Z for $8. Exactly. Yeah. Structural parts, buttons, mid-frame, screws, things like that, vapor chamber even, $10. Okay. Patents, licensing, software, $29 per unit. And then rough total bill of materials, again, this is the all-in cost to make the phone, but the bill of actual physical materials, $500. So that's for my crazy super high-end dream phone idea. $500 to build. Wow. But then, of course, you have to add on R&D, all the teams, the employee costs, and licensing and things that actually one-time engineering costs to make this build motherboard.
This is Chief of Security Blanchard.
All that stuff.
Are you a side for sore eyes?
It breaks it down.
I've been pulled up in the matches since yesterday trying to organize a
That was a
containment
very
response.
funny part of the video.
Now that you're here, let's lock down that AO.
$500.
I'll track body cams.
R&D is about $20 million. Okay, so sell a lot of phones to sort of break even, obviously. My favorite quote was they wrote as one of the costs, just take products from competitors to understand the market better. and they didn't give an exact cost for that. But I thought that was interesting.
Priceless, interesting.
It happens in a lot of industries, and I just kind of forgot that that's but like car companies just buy tons of cars from these cars. Yes,
But they're more expensive per car.
well, in total cost, but maybe in development relative to the final cost of the product. Maybe it's you buy 5 or 6 cars to make a car. You buy 5 or 6 homes to make a phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, go check out that video. It's pretty interesting and insightful. I don't really see that sort of behind the curtain stuff very often from manufacturers. So check that in the description. But anyway, okay. So I think the big interesting thing we got to try this week with the MKBHD video we put out, Project Muhan, Samsung's headset collaboration with Google Android XR. That was very interesting. Yeah, I have so many questions about that. I have all the answers. Okay. Yeah, so I tried to put as much as I officially know in the video. We don't know things like the exact release date or the exact price. We don't know a couple final details on things like field of view and resolution. I can just tell you like what I thought looking into the headset. But most of what this experience was to try it and use Android XR and Gemini on an image headset. And yeah, it looks a lot like a Vision Pro. They really were inspired by a lot of parts of Vision Pro, but they did improve on some stuff, like the battery, even though it is a battery tied to the side and in your back pocket. It's a removable cable, USB Type-C, you can pop on another battery, which is pretty cool. If you plug it into a wall socket, you can. Okay, cool. Well, the battery that comes with it had another USB port on it that you can plug into the wall. So you can't put the cable directly into that's a good question that I didn't answer to. I would imagine you can. But that's cool if you could plug it in on top as well. And see, right. That's a great one. Yeah, the cable's long enough to put it in the top. Sure. I don't know about a wall. Yeah, I mean, they made this that a while ago. They've been finalizing it. It was near final, so what we saw when I filmed the video is probably basically what you're going to get. Eventually get to buy one of these things.
The box can't screw me over any worse than a Rick coffin.
So unpack that later this year, probably. But
wow.
It's probably not.
I felt like this when I earned my jump wings.
On Android XR. Oh, Android XR, the platform name, yes. That is the name of the software officially, yes. The Muhan is the code name. It means Infinity, and it's code for this canvas that you get to play, which is kind of cool. But it's not. So, something the Vision Pro does is that if you're looking for the frame rate that's high enough that it doesn't really feel just walking around and the quality is a little bit worse than the light. Right. How does that feel? Yeah, okay. Couple notes. One, the resolution of the display was pretty good. I would say a notch below Vision Pro, but it's pretty crisp. The overall pass-through from the cameras was good enough. It wasn't stunning or amazing. Vision Pro is definitely better. Like when you look through Vision Pro and pass-through, you feel very close to just looking through blurry flash. This was notch below that for sure. But it is an image you take off the bottom of the eye seal, and that gives you this peripheral vision where light is coming in on the side and the bottom. And for some reason that made it feel that the rain sort of fills in the bezels around the display with the rest. So I'm looking at a wall, and it's in the middle of the house. My peripheral vision is the outside of the wall. Right. My brain kind of fills in the gaps, kind of merges them. Yeah. Which is interesting. So I prefer using it without the light saving other than. But generally, decent B+ pass-through. Okay. Yeah. I have a question. Yeah. So we actually just dropped today an Apple Vision Pro bonus episode, which that if you haven't. But one thing that developers probably want is that Apple did a good job of making the feature coding for iOS apps and when kind of you know what you do over there. Yeah. So details that I got from the team are number one, all Play Store apps are compatible. Off the bat, no code, they will work. So check out So I went to Play Store and downloaded it right to the phone. You can scroll it on your phone app, use that to just scroll around. It works. But there obviously would be a benefit of having optimized apps, so what they call spatial apps. And a bunch of the built-in apps are optimized, and apparently it's a few lines of code to update your app to be optimized for spatial, and then you can go crazy, customize, and add way more stuff. But like the YouTube app, for example, is a spatial app. It chose to curve the window a little bit. It added these floating side panels for related videos and comments, and then you could add a background for an environment that you're in, and then watch YouTube videos like floating background on a mountain. Not as high fidelity as that was, just not as good looking, but cool feature. So my understanding is that it will be pretty easy to make spatial apps, but if you don't update your app at all, it will still work on the headset.
Do you think this is the reason that they haven't made a YouTube app for Vision Pro? Because they want it to be exclusive to an Android XR headset?
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean,
that's a pretty huge thing, especially since they shut down the third-party Juno player.
My question is, what's a better experience, watching YouTube in the browser on Vision Pro or a built-in YouTube app on this headset?
Right, because in Vision Pro Safari, they have a special window for a video player.
Yeah, so you can watch a video full screen with a background kind of exactly the same way you do on